Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Today we have ourselves quite a show, as we have a lot to get into in the world of Southern California sports, such as the Clippers, unsurprisingly clinching a playoff spot and clinching their division. Pretty impressive stuff from the Clippers, but can they have the same luck in the playoffs? And the Lakers, well, they're going to be in the playoffs, but they have to go through the play-in tournament. Are they going to have success in the play-in tournament, or is this where the buck stops? Speaking of playoff spots clinched, the LA Kings are bound for the playoffs, as at least one SoCal team in the NHL is able to do something right, unlike the Ducks. Also, we have some MLS to discuss, as LAFC and the Galaxy are back in action after the first round of El Tráfico. We also have a little NWSL to discuss with San Diego Wave and Wave FC. And finally, we have the MLB to discuss with the Angels, Padres, and Dodgers. All that and more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all those sports. And welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, Sunday morning, Sunday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way into episode 176 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show would not be live without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on Spreaker. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, formerly known as Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. We also have a Facebook page. All you just have to do is type in the word IE Sports and Radio in the search bar, like us, and then that's how you're able to follow us. We also have a website that's updated daily, iesportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our Hall of Fame, our Fans of the Month, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, our community forum, and our merchandise shop. For the last 9 years, soon to be 10 years in less than a month, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all of that sports. A huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, the single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, it's low in sugar, and high in protein. This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on, and all you have to do is visit planetjerky.net and place your order. In addition, prices are slashed for the time being, and if you buy an order's worth of $50 or more, you'll get the shipping for free! Once again, a huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. Our second sponsor is Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch. Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or friend and you want to add their smile to their face when they receive it. If that's the case, then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts is just for you. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. Follow them on Instagram at @sealthedeal_wax stamps. And the way you can follow the SoCal Supreme Sports Show on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at SoCal Show IESR. And you can follow me, Teran Rodriguez, mainly on Twitter, now known as X, at Teran Rodriguez 1. And without any further delay, let us begin. As Jen B and Mike Pat are in the chat room, thank you both for tuning in. As Mike Pat says, it's SoCal time. LeBron stays breaking records. And I guess that's actually a perfect segue to go into the Lakers and Clippers in terms of the NBA. Because there hasn't been, it's not overly exciting. Like, all we have is like the NBA, the NHL, the MLS, the MLB, and the NWSL. So this might be a little bit shorter of a show than normal, but let's discuss a little Lakers, because last time we discussed the Lakers, it was last Sunday, and they played the Minnesota Timberwolves. Unfortunately, they did not have LeBron James and they didn't have Anthony Davis. Well, no, actually they did have Anthony Davis, but it was to a certain extent, as Anthony Davis got poked in the eye, which was the same eye that he got poked in when I think they played he got poked in the eye earlier in the season. But it was the same eye that he got poked in early in the season, and the Lakers wound up losing 127-117. Anthony Davis only played 12 minutes. Rui Hachimura had to step up, and he led the Lakers with 30 points, which is pretty good if you ask me. Thank you, Washington Lizards. Jackson Hayes also came in off the bench and added 19 points to go along with 10 boards, so there you go right there. Adam Karnick says, good afternoon, Teran. Chargers and Rams first-round picks, and go. Well, I actually didn't really plan on talking about the Rams and Chargers in terms of the draft this week. I'm probably going to save that for next week. So I know Adam Karnick, if you listen to Chi-Town Weekly, Adam Karnick is big on drafts, as well as Mike Pat. He's also big on drafts, on the NFL draft too, and definitely do check out Chi-Town Weekly tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Central, and check out Let's Whine About DMV Sports with Mike Pat every Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. But it's looking like didn't plan on talking about the Rams and Chargers in terms of their first round draft picks. So, and I've kind of gone over some possibilities with them. So, and their mock drafts from other people. So I'll probably save Rams Chargers for maybe next week, depending on what my schedule looks like. But as back to the Lakers. So the Lakers, they wound up unfortunately losing to the Warriors 134-120. I just don't understand. And this is with LeBron James. So they had LeBron James. Anthony Davis did not play because of that eye injury. Well, it says his DNP was courtesy of a headache. So there's that as well. So unfortunately for the Lakers, without Anthony Davis, like if they don't have one and or the other, the Lakers just aren't the same team. So it's like a cracked mirror. It's just not the same after it's damaged. But the Lakers were able to bounce back on Friday as they took down the Memphis Grizzlies in very close fashion, 123-120. Like, the Grizzlies lineup is so beaten up that they have to start players like Scottie Pippen Jr., which I didn't even know he was on the Grizzlies until I saw that starting lineup. Gigi Jackson was also starting for the Grizzlies. Jake LaRavia, he was also starting for the Grizzlies. Jordan Goodwin. Like, I've never even heard of half of these players. And Trey Jamison. Like, and the Lakers had only beat this team by 3. Like, the Grizzlies are tanking harder than Operation Desert Storm. And ever since Ja Morant went down after his little debacle of the suspension, the Grizzlies just have not been the same. But I feel the Lakers kind of broke the Grizzlies last year in the playoffs. I mean, you shouldn't have poked the bear. Adam Karnick says, not only will I be talking NFL draft, he'll be talking the WNBA draft is tomorrow night too. So much draft talk. Well, I guess this means I can forget about hoping to hear something about Loyola Chicago men's volleyball. So, but I digress. So Larry B pops in the chat room. He says, what's up, Teran? Talking some Lakers. And to conclude the Lakers in their regular season, they took down the New Orleans Pelicans in very dominant fashion, 124-108. So it doesn't make sense. The Lakers barely eked out a win over the Grizzlies, but they were able to stomp all over the New Orleans Pelicans. Make it make sense. So with the Pelicans losing and the Suns beating the Timberwolves, good job, Suns. Well, the Lakers will be playing the New Orleans Pelicans, which, then the Kings wound up winning, but they were a game behind the Lakers. And then the Grizzlies beat the Jazz 123-116. So the Lakers, due to them being a game up on the Sacramento Kings and the Memphis Grizzlies, they were able to be the 8th seed. So they'll get to play the Pelicans again, which that'll be in the play-in round, or the play-in tournament. So that's not too bad. I imagine they still might be staying in New Orleans, because that is going to be where the Lakers and Pelicans will be playing. So I'm hoping the Lakers bring their A game like they did today. But looking at the box score of the Lakers-Pelicans game, Anthony Davis led the way with 30 points, which is pretty solid if you ask me. LeBron had a triple-double, 28 points, 11 boards, and 17 assists. Austin Reeves had 20 points. D'Angelo Russell, he had 19 points. Lakers shot 55%, pretty much over 55%. They made 11 threes. That was a big plus, even though the Pelicans made 15 threes, but they shot under 50%, slightly under 50%, like 47%. As TJ McCollum led the way for them with 25 points. Herbert Jones added 18 points. Brandon Ingram, the former Laker, added 13 points. Larry Nance Jr., another former Laker, he had 13 points. So, yeah, this Lakers-Pelicans game will be quite something in terms of the play-in game. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully the Lakers can bring their A game, because if they can, us Lakers fans could still rub it in Pelicans fans' face about how the Lakers still wound up winning the Anthony Davis trade. And to this day, I will just say the Lakers still wound up winning the Anthony Davis trade. They got a championship out of it. I don't care what anyone says. It is a championship. I think Rick Malone said that it's still a valid championship, and anyone that says otherwise is dumb. So if for some reason, and knock on wood, if the Lakers do beat the Pelicans in the play-in bracket, then they would draw the Denver Nuggets in the first round. Ooh, that would not be fun, if you ask me. I mean, we all saw how the Lakers got swept by the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. But if the Lakers managed to win the 8th seed of the play-in bracket, then they would play the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, believe it or not, I actually talked to my brother before I went live. Talked to him about brotherly things. But the Lakers were actually a topic that we discussed. So he says that the Lakers can actually match up better against the Oklahoma City Thunder, which I kind of don't disagree with that. I definitely agree with him in that regard. I mean, they just spanked the Mavericks 135-86. So, woof. But I don't know. Maybe the Thunder's inexperience will deter them, and maybe that might be the case for the Lakers winning. As long as they have Anthony Davis and LeBron James. If they have both of them, then they're a force to be reckoned with. If not, then honestly, I don't see how the Lakers get out of round one. I mean, obviously the Thunder aren't world beaters, but I just think Denver just is a worse matchup than Oklahoma City. I just feel that the Thunder are a little bit more ripe for the picking, because the Lakers have actually had success against the Thunder this season, whereas the Nuggets, that might not be an ideal matchup. Ralph Calise pops in the chat room. He says, "Good evening, Teran. Here's to having a great show." Thank you, Ralph. And Adam Karnick says, "A championship is the goal. So yes, if a trade results in a chip, then the team won the trade." Thank you, Adam. Gold star for you and big W award for Adam Karnick for basically saying that. He just said it perfectly. Anyway, as for the Clippers, well, the Clippers, they didn't really have the most ideal ending to the season. So, last time we talked about them, they beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, sorry, Gen B, 120-118, and they rallied back from being down 17 points. which, if you're a Cavs fan, I feel bad for you. But if you're a Clippers fan, then don't feel bad. So the Cavs basically got rallied back by the Clippers, and the Clippers wound up being the Suns on Tuesday, 105-92. Now that was good at the time, but little did the Clippers know they had to play the Suns a second time, this time in Phoenix, and the Suns wound up beating the Clippers 124-108, which, yeah, that fourth quarter really sucked the living daylight out of the Clippers. 32-15, golly. And you know the Clippers didn't really have the best scoring night. I mean, this guy has been pretty solid, but obviously Bones Highland, he led the way with 37 points. Now, that's not terrible, but my thing is that it looks like Kawhi Leonard had his little load management. Him and Paul George had load management. And I understand if the Clippers head coach Tyronn Lue decided, hey, let's sit the starters, not risk them getting injured, because that is definitely a wise decision. Because in the first round, if you all remember a couple of years ago, Kawhi Leonard got hurt in the first round and he tore his ACL and he was out for the rest of the playoffs and the playoffs he was out for the whole season after that, or all of last season. So the Clippers do have to be cautious in terms of their injuries. They do have somewhat of an aging roster. Now, what I didn't expect from the Clippers is I didn't expect them to lose this one. They lost to the Utah Jazz 110-109. I don't understand how, but yeah, the Clippers wound up losing that one as Bones Highland, once again, led the way with 20 points. But it's probably because of load management because, okay, well, Paul George did play, but they didn't have Kawhi Leonard, so it's understandable. And Russell Westbrook is just kind of getting his sea legs back after his injury. This time, Highland actually came off the bench and scored 20 points. The starters didn't really have their so-called A game, as Paul George had only 10 points, Ivica Zubac 10 points, James Harden only 4 points. Like they didn't really play a whole lot, so Tyronn Lue must have really gone to his bench, which is understandable. Again, you don't want to get your players hurt before the playoffs, or your best players hurt for the playoffs. But even though the Clippers wound up losing against the Jazz, they actually wound up earning home court advantage regardless, which I find a little funny if you ask me. So the Clippers lost, but at what cost? As Friday, the same night the Clippers lost to the Jazz, the Mavericks, oh my god, I don't know what was worse. The Clippers losing to the Jazz or the Mavericks losing to the Pistons? Oof. That's got to sting, as that actually snapped a 5-game win streak from the Mavs. But I digress. That was something we also talked about, my brother and I talked about, but more on that later. So the Clippers closed out their regular season losing to the Houston Rockets 116-105. But Terrence Mann led the way with 24 points as he started, and thankfully he was able to, finish out the game and whatnot. Xavier Moon, I think his first name is pronounced Xavier Moon. Anyway, Xavier Moon played 46 points. He had 14 points, which is pretty nice. Amir Kofi had 18 points. So it still wasn't enough to beat the Rockets, but that's fine. I mean, the Clippers were locked into the 4 seed regardless. So courtesy of the Mavericks losing to the Pistons, the Clippers were the 4 seed. I think they would have gotten the 4th seed regardless, just because they had the head-to-head in terms of matchups won between the Clippers and the Mavericks. I think they only lost once, which was in the mid-season tournament or the in-season tournament. So you have that right there. But as for the Clippers, they will draw the Dallas Mavericks. Now, this was another thing my brother and I talked about. So he thinks that the Dallas Mavericks can actually beat the Los Angeles Clippers. And I actually don't agree, because if you all remember, Luka Doncic almost beat the Clippers by himself, because the Mavericks were battling injuries galore. But the Clippers will have the home court advantage, so they have that right there. that being said, how much can we trust the Clippers in terms of going deep in the playoffs? For starters, they're not going to have... I hope they don't load manage Kawhi Leonard, because if they do, then they're all but screwed. But the Mavericks are going to be tough. This year, the Mavericks have Kyrie Irving, which I definitely think is going to be a tough tamale for the Mavs. I imagine the Mavs basically rested their starters. They didn't have to play anyone of noteworthiness in terms of their last few games because they knew where they were going to be. They couldn't improve their seeding or they couldn't go down further. But I definitely think the Mavericks are going to be a very tough out for the Clippers. Again, the Clippers have home court. At least they have Kawhi Leonard ready. They'll have Paul George ready. I think the Clippers are a sneaky good team. But my brother does make a good point. The Dallas Mavericks are going to be such a tough out, especially if the Mavericks do steal one on the road. If they steal one on the road, then that could be danger zone time for the Clippers. And that's the thing. Home court is so precious. So if I imagine if the Clippers are going to beat the Mavericks, I feel they're going to have to do it in 7 games. And they're going to have to really contain Luka Doncic. But even if they do contain Luka Doncic, like I said, they still have Kyrie Irving. They have Tim Hardaway Jr., Derek Jones Jr., and so on and so forth. And they have PJ Washington, who's been pretty solid as well. And looking at the Mavericks stats, Doncic is averaging almost 34 points a game. He leads the Mavericks in every category except for blocks. That one belongs to Derek Lively II. But he's almost averaging a triple-double. Those are just monster numbers right there for Luka Doncic. And again, it wouldn't be surprising if Luka practically carried the Mavericks to victory. And it's so weird seeing Kyrie Irving just having a revival to his career. I mean, when he was with Brooklyn, well, I think it was the Cavs, he got traded to Brooklyn, and then Brooklyn, he just had that whole the earth is flat theory thing and whatnot. And then he eventually got shipped out, and there were rumors saying that he was going to reunite with LeBron. But he's now found a home with the Mavericks, and good for him. And then Tim Hardaway Jr. is another player to watch for. Like I said, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford. I am baffled by how he's been thriving as a big man. Derek Lively II, he's also another player to watch for. So, the Clippers are going to need to play their best ball. They're going to need to have Kawhi Leonard really put on his big boy pants. James Harden's going to really need to step up. And hopefully for the Clippers' sake, Russell Westbrook can also be efficient as well. I get it. He wasn't 100%, and he's just getting his way back onto the court after he had an ankle injury. But at the same time, this is where he has to shine, because this is kind of the reason why he's been bounced around by so many teams. So Westbrook can't be Westbrick, and James Harden can't be James Hardbrick. And someone that's kind of been an unsung hero, I mean, obviously we have Paul George. When you hear the Clippers name, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are the first players that come to mind. But Ivica Zubac has definitely been an unsung hero, as he's almost averaging a double-double, which I think is pretty solid. He leads the Clippers in rebounds with 9.2, so honestly, and any player on the Clippers can literally come alive at any point. Like Bones Highland, I'm going to be 100% honest, I didn't think he would be one of the key contributors. They also got Mason Plumlee, who's kind of been contributing. Terrence Mann has revived his career, which I think is pretty solid as well. Daniel Tice has been pretty good as well. So for the Clippers, they can only go as far as their shots fall. If their shots start falling, they might actually have a shot to beat the Mavericks. But I would not be surprised if the Clippers got bounced in round 1. And Larry says there's breaking news, and now I'm interested in this breaking news. So go on. But to close up on the Clippers, I hope for their sake they just come ready to go. Because if they don't, then the Clipper curse will still be a thing. And then jumping back to the Lakers, one thing I will just say is they have the familiarity of facing the Pelicans, but Lightning is not going to strike twice. The Lakers are not going to beat the Pelicans by 32 points. Well, they were up by as many as 32 points. They wound up winning by 20, 16? They won in dominant fashion regardless. Yeah, they won by 16. And they were up by at least 20 points. And I was just baffled. So, again, the Lakers are basically Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, which I think is pretty situational if you ask me. I mean, the Lakers have had their ups and they've had their downs. But like I said, the Lakers go as far as Anthony Davis and LeBron James can take them. So, there you have it right there. So, Larry B says CBU or California Baptist has done it. The Lancers won the Advanced All-Girl Division I National Championship and All-Girl Grand Championship. So, that's amazing. That's absolutely awesome sauce in terms of, I think that's dance he's talking about. Dance or cheerleading. But that's amazing. And Larry says, and this is California Baptist. Yes, that is actually the correct vernacular. California Baptist or CBU. Because I actually did get told that it's not Cal Baptist as their vernacular. It's CBU, not Cal Baptist. Anyway, but yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for informing me of that, Larry. And yeah, that is cheer. So thank you for the clarification, Larry. It was one of the two. But yeah, congratulations to CBU's cheer team as they wound up winning the Advanced All-Girl Division I National Championship and the All-Girl Grand Championship. So that is awesome. And yes, that deserves a lance up. So thank you, CBU Women's Cheer, for giving us something to cheer about. And yeah, it just goes to show that CBU is more than just a women's basketball school. They're a cheerleading school. Okay, but jokes aside, they are a good Division I school in terms of SoCal. They just get lost in the sauce because they're just not as well known as some of the other schools. But great. But yeah, they wound up winning a cheer championship and the grand championship. So awesome sauce. Thank you. So once again, thank you, Larry B, for informing me of that news. You get a gold star and a big W award as well. So there you have it. Okay, but that is going to do it for the NBA and that little bit of news right there. I actually don't know when the play-in round begins. I want to say it begins like Thursday, if not maybe like Friday. But honestly, the Lakers just need to be ready. I really don't want to see the Lakers lose in the play-in round, because if they do, then we're not going to hear the end of it from Pelicans fans. It's just going to be this dude named Retro Pels playing the anthem and whatnot. Like, I think all Laker fans and everyone in terms of the sports world would love to see the Pelicans just get clowned on by the Lakers. At the same time, however, the Lakers would match up better with the Thunder than the Nuggets. So, we'll see. Jen B says that she thinks that the play-in round or the play-in tournament begins on Wednesday, but that might be for the East. Yeah, I wish ESPN would get it going, because the play-in bracket has its finalization in terms of who's playing. So, Lakers play the Pelicans. The Kings host the Warriors. What would be a laughter if the Warriors wound up losing to the Kings. But we'll have to see. Yeah, the Pacific Division in the NBA just really has come alive these past two seasons. I mean, last year, the Pacific Division was all in the playoffs. They were all in the top 8, and the Lakers of all teams, they wound up going the furthest, which I think was pretty funny. And I don't think anyone saw the Clippers winning the Pacific Division, with how you're in a division with the Lakers. The Western Conference as a whole is stacked. You've got the Suns that are pretty good, the Warriors with Steph and Clay, even though it's looking like the Warriors might, hence the word might, be breaking up the band. And then you also got the Kings, who have had their ups and downs, but they've improved from years past. So there you have it. All right, enough about the Lakers and Clippers. We'll talk about them hopefully on the next show. So let's discuss a little MLS action as, well, we have, LAFC and LA Galaxy were back in action after El Tráfico won by LAFC last week. So for the Galaxy, they did not suffer an El Tráfico hangover as they actually whooped Vancouver on the road 3-1. So that is good news. I'm glad the Galaxy didn't dwell on this loss. So it was actually tied 0-0 at halftime. So yeah. But the first goal was scored by the Galaxy as Dejan Hovlicic scored in the 56th minute. But Vancouver was able to score in the 77th minute, 21 minutes after that first goal, as Brian White knocked in the goal for the Whitecaps. But 3 minutes after that, Joseph Paintstill scored for the Galaxy 3 minutes after that goal from Vancouver. And then Diego Fagundes scored 2 minutes after Paintstill's goal. God, that's such a tricky name. Joseph Paintstill. And that's how the Galaxy won 3-1. So, a lot of scoring in that second half. So, it must have been either the cold, both teams weren't fully warmed up, but regardless, the Galaxy bounced back and they didn't have an El Tráfico hangover. And they're now first in the Western Conference with that win, because it was the battle of the top two teams in the West with that one. So, good job to the Galaxy for winning that matchup. Again, for the Galaxy, this might actually be a whole different Galaxy team. I mean, there's no shame in losing to LAFC because they are last year's Western Conference champions, back-to-back Western Conference champions, mind you. And speaking of LAFC, they actually wound up having a battle against Portland, as the first goal was scored by Felipe Mora of the Timbers, as the host team, Timbers, wound up leading 1-0. And then in the 21st minute, LAFC scored courtesy of Metzus Bogus, as that tied it up at 1-1. Then 13 minutes after that, Evander, yes, his name is just Evander, he scored for the Timbers, and suddenly the Timbers led 2-1, which was the halftime score. But 3 minutes into the second half, Maxime Crepau got a red card, and the Timbers played a man down for the rest of the game, as Metzus Bogus scored 3 minutes after that red card, and LAFC tied it up at 2-2. Unfortunately for LAFC, they just could not get that goal, which broke the tie, as, yeah, it's disappointing for LAFC because Portland had a man down, and unfortunately, LAFC just could not get that goal against a man-down Portland Timbers team. But I will just say, at least they didn't lose, but it kind of shows that maybe the El Tráfico hangover was a thing. Because you saw how the Timbers gave up the first goal of the game, and then they needed to respond, and then they were down 2-1 at halftime. And thankfully, for the LAFC's sake, the Timbers decided to do something pretty dumb and get a red card, leaving them a man down the rest of the way. So, I mean, a point is a point, as LAFC is back in action this upcoming Saturday, when they host the New York Red Bulls. LAFC hasn't seen the last of the Timbers, as in 2 more weeks or 13 more days, LAFC will host the Portland Timbers, and I'm 95% certain it's going to be lit in that matchup. And then as for the Galaxy, they are back in action when they host the San Jose Quakes, so they get to host another rival. So, they beat the Quakes earlier in the year. They actually beat them in San Jose, so that's good news. The only thing is that now they get the Quakes again, and hopefully for the Galaxy's sake, they don't get a big head after beating Vancouver, because obviously big heads can happen after you get a big win in terms of a conference matchup. Now, if they had beaten a team from the Eastern Conference, or if they beat a team that they were destined to heavily beat, I think the Galaxy wouldn't have a big head. But I feel maybe beating Vancouver, it might give them a big head. But they just can't do that against a rival like San Jose. Because when it comes to rivalry matches, all bets are off. All bets are off. You throw out the records, so on and so forth. For the Galaxy, they're facing the worst team in the West, as San Jose actually only has 1 win. They have 7 losses. So, yeah, the Galaxy need to win that one. I don't care what it takes. I already can see Dignity Health Sports Park. Is that where it's at? Because that's the former StubHub Center. Because all these stadium names keep freaking changing. Yeah, Dignity Health Sports Park. Because every stadium is now changing their name. Every venue is like changing their names. So I'm an old school guy. I will refer to things like StubHub Center, Staples Center, Arrowhead Pond. The list goes on and on. I'm an old school type of guy. I will refer to things by their former name instead of their current name. All right, but good job to the Galaxy this weekend, or this past weekend, and a solid job to LAFC. As LAFC, their next opponent, like I mentioned, that will be against the New York Red Bulls, and New York is the second best team in the East. So hopefully for LAFC's sake, they get to see a New York Red Bulls team that's intimidated on the West Coast. I mean, it's going to be played at BMO Stadium. Yes, it's actually pronounced BMO, not BMO. BMO. Like BMO Bank. But LAFC, they haven't lost in their past 2 matches, so maybe they can keep this momentum going. But that's going to do it for the MLS portion of the show. Jumping over to some NWSL between the Wave FC and with Angel City FC. So starting off with Wave FC, they played Racing Louisville FC, which... is that the correct vernacular? Yes, it is. So, yeah, they played Racing Louisville FC to a 0-0 draw, which, that sucks. But it's all good. I mean, I guess it's better than a loss, but Wave FC remains in that 6th spot. Now, Angel City, on the other hand, they wound up beating the Chicago Red Stars 1-0 on the road, which I thought was rather impressive. I think that is good stuff regarding Angel City, and I'm very happy for them, as if I recall correctly, that is their first win of the season, as technically Angel City actually did not score their goal. It was actually an own goal courtesy of Chicago's Maximilian Rawl. But I still think that the player that deflected the ball off the player should get the goal. So, I don't know, bro. But Angel City is back in action next Sunday when they host the North Carolina Courage. That should be a fun little matchup right there, because the Courage are actually the best team in the NWSL. That's going to be a challenge, but it's going to be fun. And Wave FC is back in action this Friday. They have a short turnaround, or not like the longest turnaround, unlike Angel City, which gets a week off, but a week off and then some. But Wave FC is back in action Friday when they head down to O-Town, or Orlando, to take on the Orlando Pride. I almost didn't know their name at that point, but the chance for Wave FC to improve, as Orlando is right ahead of them in terms of the standings. They actually have not lost a match this season. They're actually one of 3 teams that have not lost a match. The KC Current, they haven't lost a match. The Orlando Pride, they haven't lost a match. And Racing Louisville FC has not lost a match as well. As it's funny, Racing Louisville FC has not lost a match, but they haven't won one either. All their matches have resulted in draws, so nice and balanced, like everything should be. But that's going to do it for the NWSL portion of the show. So solid job to both those teams, to both Wave FC for not losing, and for Angel City for basically getting their first win of the season. I think that is very good, and I think they can only go up from here. But that's going to do it for the NWSL portion of the show. We're going to take ourselves a quick little break. When we come back, we'll talk a little MLB, some NHL, and hopefully we'll have a Dum Dum of the Week. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's up, sports fans? You're listening to IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your favorite West Coast Wisconsinite, Bernie Bango, and if you're a cheesehead, come listen to my show, Big Cheese Sports, where we road trip around America's Dairyland, previewing, reviewing, predicting, debating, and digging into all that is Wisconsin sports at the college and pro levels. Join me on IE Sports Radio, Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Standard. Bernie out.
What's good, everyone? It's Drewski, the host of Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. On this station, we cover everything in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. From we cover the Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Stars, Dallas Mavericks, Dallas Wings, Texas Rangers, TCU, SMU, we cover it all right here every Wednesdays from 9 to 10 p.m. Central Time. Make sure you stay live with me on the Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey there, sports fans. Are you looking for a sports show that maybe isn't 100% about sports?
Then you might want to check out the Sports Couple Perspectives right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Most sports shows cover only scores and stats, and while we're not opposed to that, we dig a little deeper into sports issues and some of the hottest topics in athletics.
In addition to sports, we take a journey through my neck of the woods, pop culture, with movie reviews of both sports and non-sports films.
Speaking of pop culture, make sure to participate in our game nights, where we quiz each other on our specialties, and you, the listeners, can win IE Sports Radio apparel.
We always have a great time learning more about each other's worlds, one show at a time.
So join us each week on the Sports Couple Perspectives, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr., and I'm welcoming you to take another lap with the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. Yes, this is the Extra Mile with me and my co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. We talk everything racing from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to limited hydroplanes, endurance racing, the NHRA, and more. So come join us for an hour of great racing talk and a lot of fun as well on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows. And sorry if I was gone a little bit longer than expected. I actually did need to check out something Southern California related, and it actually pertains to a Southern California team picking up a win, as we're going to talk a little Pro Volleyball Federation, as the San Diego Mojo... Now, I saved my volleyball talk for set point tomorrow, but since I'm actually not going to do the show tomorrow, I'm actually going to do it Tuesday at like noon. Yeah, probably noon, because I actually have something going on Monday. It actually involves a former set point guest. I'm going to be going to that instead of doing set point tomorrow. So, as for the San Diego Mojo, they actually just picked up a very solid win over the Orlando Valkyries, where they wound up winning in 5 sets, which the 5th set was actually 18-16, and they dodged a couple match points, which I think is pretty impressive. So the San Diego Mojo, I don't know if you all know this, but they actually start out being one of the worst teams in the league. They actually were kind of a laughingstock, and I was extremely concerned on if they were actually going to survive. But now they have actually jumped from the worst team in the league to now the 4th best team in the league. Now, there's only 7 teams starting off in the Pro Volleyball Federation, but only the top 4 teams advance to the playoffs. And the San Diego Mojo, I know it's early, but they're only a half game back of 3rd place. And I said on set point that the San Diego Mojo are in for such a big week this week, as they had 3 matches. So as we all know, I just mentioned they just beat the Orlando Valkyries, but they did lose to the Atlanta Vibe. I want to say that was a Thursday game, if not a Wednesday game. It was 3 days ago. So if we're going back 3 days ago, that's a Thursday. So yeah, they lost on Thursday to the Atlanta Vibe. No shame in losing to them, just because, well, the Atlanta Vibe are the best team in the league. But they did also beat the Gen B. I'm sorry I have to say this, but they also beat the Columbus Fury. Please forgive me, Gen B, that I have to bring that up. But they did manage to beat them last week, and they managed to beat them in 5. And I think that was 5. Oh no, that was not this past. That was last week. But I thought they had another matchup against the Fury. I'm not entirely certain. Oh, now I remember. I'm sorry. I haven't been paying too much of attention to the PVF just because I've been focusing on NCAA men's volleyball. So they actually played the Columbus Fury on Friday, and they wound up winning in 5. So I'm sorry I have to bring that up, Gen B. Please forgive me. So Wednesday, they took on the Atlanta Vibe, and they wound up losing in straight sets. And then Friday, they beat the Columbus Fury at Nationwide Arena in Columbus in 5 sets. That actually has some significance because they actually played on CBS Sports Network, and that's big right there because it shows how Pro Volleyball Federation is growing, and winning that one in a 5-setter on the road and on CBS Sports Network, that's pretty good. But also their win over the Orlando Valkyries is big as well. It's another road win, and the fact that they wound up winning that one is just so big because, again, they're now in 4th place in the PVF, and they're only half game back of Grand Rapids Rise, which is in Michigan. So all in all, the Mojo are starting to get their mojo going, and if they had like a couple more better players, I think, or not better players, but like more key pieces to add to their good team so far, I think this team could actually maybe rise to the 3rd best team. Now, do I have them beating the Omaha Supernovas or the Atlanta Vibe? No, but the fact that they are shattering the expectations after they left a sour taste in my mouth early on, it makes me encouraged to see that the Mojo are actually doing really good. And I really want to check out a San Diego Mojo match. But it's all the way down in San Diego, and I just don't have the resources to go down there, unless I want to spend a pretty penny. Or I use the buddy system and I have someone carpool me over there. But I digress. Alright, but that's enough for some Pro Volleyball Federation. I'll talk more Pro Volleyball Federation on Tuesday when I do set point at noon Pacific time. But let's talk a little MLB with the Angels, Dodgers, and Padres. So the Padres and Dodgers series is going to be obviously the elephant in the room, but I do want to go over the Angels really quick. So last time I talked about the Angels, they beat the Red Sox last Sunday. This past week they took on the Red Sox again, this time in Boston. Sorry, in Fenway Park. Sorry, I was blanking on the place where they play, but Fenway Park, and then they also hosted the Tampa Bay Rays in the Big A. Unfortunately for the Angels, they lost 2 out of 3 against Tampa Bay. They wound up winning the first game 7-1, which was pretty good. But they wound up losing on Gooby Tuesday to the Rays 6-4, and they wound up dropping the rubber match on Wednesday as they lost to the Rays 4-2. Then their series against the Boston Red Sox. This time around, the Angels wound up laying an egg against the Red Sox. So just like the Rays series, the Angels wound up winning the first game 7-0, but on Saturday they wound up losing to the Red Sox 7-2. Now keep in mind, that loss actually came when the Red Sox had 0 home wins. They were 0-4 at Fenway Park this year before that loss. Great job, Angels. Way to energize your opponent. And it was over by the second inning. They were actually down, I think, like 5-0, if not 6-0. Or no, they were down 6-0 at the end of the second inning. So it was basically GG no re. And then today, the Angels lost to the Red Sox 5-4, where the Angels' rally just came way too little, far too late, as they wound up dropping another one to the Red Sox. And they currently are 7-8 on the season, which I guess isn't too bad. They're only half a game back of the Texas Rangers, but the entire AL West is starting to get a little dramatic as well. But I digress. So the Angels are back in action tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday when they and Thursday. So the Angels are back Monday through Thursday when they hit the road to Florida to take on the Tampa Bay Rays. Then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they hit the road to Cincinnati to take on the Cincinnati Reds. So there you have it right there regarding the Angels. Now let's talk about the Dodgers. So last time I talked about the Dodgers, they wound up losing the series to the Cubs, as they wound up losing last Sunday 8-1. Yeah, enjoy your little World Series win, Cubs. I still don't trust y'all. But this past Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, they actually took 2 out of 3 against Minnesota, winning on Monday 4-2, and on Tuesday 6-3. But unfortunately, they lost to the Twins 3-2 on Wednesday. So after having Thursday off, the Dodgers hosted the San Diego Padres, where they unfortunately collapsed against the Padres 8-7 on Friday, but bounced back and wound up winning the second game 5-2. So in about 5 minutes, the Dodgers and Padres actually face off against one another on ESPN. So hoping to get done here before so I could check out the Boys in Blue versus the Padres, which is actually perfect segue to go into the Padres, as they actually didn't do too... Okay, well, last time I talked about them, they wound up losing the series to the Giants. They lost last Sunday 3-2. Against the Cubs, they wound up taking 2 of 3 against the Cubs, as they took the first game 9-8. And then Tuesday, unfortunately, they lost to the Cubbies 5-1. And then this past Wednesday, they stomped on the Cubs 10-2. Yeah, Cubs, Cubs fans aren't as talkative this time around as opposed to last week when you beat the Dodgers 2 out of 3 times. I'm looking at you, Adam Karnick. Anyway, but as I mentioned with the Dodgers and Padres in the first 2 games, the series is tied 1-1. Tonight is the rubber match in about 4 minutes on ESPN. It's going to be fun. But as for this week, the Padres are back in action on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when they hit the road to the land of the Chiefs to take on the Milwaukee Brewers. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the Padres welcome the Toronto Blue Jays, which I think should be a nice little fun matchup. And then as for the Dodgers, I forgot to mention the Dodgers' next upcoming games. So Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, they host the Washington Nationals. Then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they take on the New York Mets. Ooh, that's going to be a meh challenge. Like their next couple series, their next 3 series should be winnable, as currently the Dodgers are first in the NL West. The Padres are a half game back of the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are in second place of the Dodgers in the NL West. And like I mentioned, the Angels are a half game back of the Texas Rangers in the AL West. But still fairly early. I think the Astros, who are currently last, they're kind of finding their footing. And the Mariners, everyone kind of predicted the Mariners to have a little bit of a slow start. But all in all, the MLB is a marathon and not a sprint. So we'll see what happens. But that is going to do it for the Angels, Padres, and Dodgers portion of the show. So jumping over to the NHL, the NHL season's kind of winding down, but in that regard, the Kings actually wound up punching their ticket into the playoffs as their week was basically a fun week. So Saturday, they took down the Anaheim Ducks 3-1, but on Thursday, they wound up beating the Calgary Flames 4-1. And then this past Tuesday, they unfortunately lost to the Anaheim Ducks, which is a massive surprise. And for us Ducks fans, or for Ducks fans, congratulations, you just won your Stanley Cup. But the Ducks beat the Kings this past Tuesday 3-1. And then last Saturday, the Kings beat the Canucks 6-3. So, looking at the standings for the Kings, they have clinched a spot in the playoffs, and they are still 1 point ahead of the Vegas Golden Knights, meaning that would be so great to avoid the Vancouver Canucks. But with 2 games remaining, the Kings will host their last 2 games as they play the Minnesota Wild on Monday, which is tomorrow, and then they host the Chicago Blackhawks on Thursday. So that's going to be fun times for the Kings. As for the Ducks, the season is almost over, as they actually have their season finale when they hit the road to Sin City to take on the Vegas Golden Knights on Thursday. So looking at the Ducks last week, obviously I mentioned yesterday they lost to the Kings 3-1. Friday they lost to the Calgary Flames 6-3. Tuesday they beat the Kings 3-1. And then last Sunday, they lost to the St. Louis Blues in a shootout, 6-5. So yeah, the Ducks have been so bad. They've been really, really bad. But at the very least, they're not going to be the worst team in the NHL. I think they're probably destined for third worst team in the NHL, unless the Blackhawks win out their next 2 games and the Ducks wind up losing, which would mean they'd both be tied with 57 points. But all in all, for the Ducks, it's just been a very forgettable season. And I think the Ducks have the third worst record in the league on lock, just because they actually have more wins than the Blackhawks. But it is what it is. So, yeah, this has just been a nightmare season for the Anaheim Ducks. It was looking very promising to start, and then they got off, and they had a losing streak, and a losing streak, and a losing streak, and they just could never recover. So it's another year of the Ducks missing the playoffs, which is just bleh. But that's going to do it for the LA Kings and Anaheim Ducks portion of the show. So before we get on out of here, I actually did find out about the Lakers and their play-in game. So their play-in game is on Tuesday when they host, or I'm sorry, when the New Orleans Pelicans host the Lakers. So unfortunately, the Lakers are still. I imagine the Lakers are still going to be in New Orleans. They're not going to fly back to LA and then fly back to New Orleans. You might as well just stay in New Orleans and just practice there. But there are a few things that I do need to go over regarding the Lakers win over the Pelicans. So, according to Mike Trudell, the Los Angeles Lakers sideline reporter, he actually said that Anthony Davis's back tightened up on a shove late in the fourth, but he said that he'd definitely be playing on Tuesday, and he said it best: it helps that the Lakers don't have to travel as they stay here to play the New Orleans Pelicans again. And thank goodness for that. So he can get a little bit of rehab, he can get a little bit of practice time, and then he gets a chance to beat his former team again. And thank goodness. And that's actually a silver lining that the Lakers don't have to travel. That is probably the best silver lining, that they don't have to travel and whatnot. So good job to the Lakers in regards to having to play the Pelicans. It works out for a reason. And whether they play the Nuggets or the Thunder, all I could say is as long as the Lakers make the playoffs, it's still a little bit of a success for me. But honestly, I'd like for the Lakers to have done better. But I can't complain too much. At least they won the in-season tournament, which... how's that working out for the Lakers? Oh, not good. Anyway, so also in the Lakers win against the Pelicans, the Lakers, LeBron James, became the fifth player in NBA history with 25-plus points, 10-plus rebounds, 15-plus assists, and 5-plus steals. So good job to LeBron James. As Mike Pat actually said it earlier in the show, LeBron James continues to break records and whatnot. So good job to LeBron James on his little historic moment. And there was also another fun fact in terms of the Lake when it came to LeBron James. So in terms of points scored in the 21st or 22nd season, LeBron James has 1,819. Now the other five players that have played in a 21st or 22nd season, they have only 1,577 points combined. So it just shows that LeBron James is doing his darndest to beat Father Time, which I gotta give him a salute. Again, I'm not the biggest Bron fan. Obviously, he's a Laker, and I gotta respect and love him. But honestly, he just continues to defy everything. He just continues to defy Father Time and whatnot. And Marcus thinks he's a little comedian in the chat room. He says, "This is Zion's moment." Yeah. I mean, even if the Lakers lose that one, as long as I think it would be much better if the Lakers don't match up with the Nuggets. So, and it's win-win for the Lakers regardless. The only way the Lakers lose and Laker fans lose is if the Lakers lose both the play-in games and they find themselves outside of the playoffs. But honestly, I would not mind the Lakers matching up with the Thunder, and if they beat the Pelicans in the play-in game, well, that's an even bigger bonus, because now Laker fans such as myself can go to sleep happy knowing that they still won, and they 100% indeed won the Anthony Davis trade. And nobody can say otherwise. But yeah, that's basically that for the Lakers and their little play-in game information against New Orleans. I'm really hoping the Lakers can pull it out. I probably other than me doing set point that day, I don't have anything going on that day. So, yeah, I'll probably be watching. So, it's going to be very fun to see the Lakers and Pelicans face off against one another for the second time in 3 days. All right, but that is going to do it for the Lakers and that little bit of information. So before we get on out of here, we have to give out the Dum Dum of the Week. So the Dum Dum of the Week goes to someone who basically does or says something dumb. No one is safe from this award. And unfortunately, this news, I have to give it to, I don't know who to give this one out to. So I don't know if you all have heard, but this bit of news broke, I want to say, either Friday or Saturday, if not maybe Thursday. And this was courtesy of the OC Register and one of their reporters. And this was courtesy of, I think, one, if not multiple reporters. One being Dan Albano, who I'm friends with. And these are reporters that I know. So Dan Albano, Michael Huntley, Steve Fryer, they all confirmed this bit of news. So Frank McManus, the head coach of Mater Dei's football team, is out as head coach. So, yeah, it's very, very surprising on what happened in that regard. So I don't know who really to give this award to this one, as he only lasted one season as head coach. But if you all remember, he guided Mater Dei to the High School Football of America National Championship, even though Bishop Gorman probably won that technically. But Mater Dei also won the CIF Southern Section in Division I. They also won the CIF Open Division State Championship. They basically won everything except for the national championship because, well, that loss to St. John Bosco kind of threw a wrench into their gears. But Frank McManus is out as head coach after only one season. One season. This is just baffling if you ask me. So, Mater Dei unfortunately did not specify a reason on why McManus was fired, but they said, "We regret to inform everybody that Frank McManus is no longer the head coach at Mater Dei." And it sucks because, well, he was a fantastic coach, and he took over for Bruce Rawlinson. So, and that is certainly not a easy. Those aren't easy shoes to fill in because Bruce Rawlinson is a freaking legend. I mean, you could say what you want about Bruce Rawlinson and what he did in the past, but the dude helped turn Mater Dei into a freaking juggernaut and whatnot. But this is just so baffling, if you ask me, in terms of Bruce Rawlinson's departure. Now, I did hear rumblings that he yelled at a bunch of 8th graders at a passing tournament, but I don't see why you would want to dismiss a coach after that. Maybe he was shouting at the 8th graders because, well, maybe he wants to be tough on them for when their moment comes where they have to play at the varsity level. But I'm just so confused on why Mater Dei decided to give this guy the axe. They have to have a specific reason. Make it make sense, Mater Dei. And I get it, everyone's probably going to say Mater Dei has another controversy, blah, 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 blah. But honestly, why? If that's the reason why he's getting fired, then he had to have done something more. Like, I understand yelling at 8th graders isn't really the most acceptable thing, but sometimes you just need that toughness in order to be successful in not only sports, but you need to be successful in life. And I unfortunately didn't learn that. I mean, I thought if a coach was tough on me, they hated me or whatnot. But honestly, it's just because the coach cares about you and they need you to step it up. And unfortunately, I never learned that because reasons. But honestly, I hope that is not the case where he shouted at 8th graders and he got fired. If that's the case, then oof, that would be a very bad way to fire him. So I really just don't know who to give Dum Dum of the Week to regarding the whole Mater Dei and Frank McManus situation. Maybe I give it to Mater Dei because they made a quick decision of firing him, or maybe I give it to Frank because he did something under the radar that was not acceptable. But honestly, I will just say he's still a fantastic coach. And Dan Albano does confirm this on X, formerly known as Twitter. Were there grumblings? Yes, most coaches have them. But he was a modern-day veteran. He was a longtime assistant coach for Bruce Rawlinson. And, yeah, some kids departed and then some arrived. And it's just very surprising if you ask me. So I really hope that for McManus's case that the reason why he was fired, it wasn't because of him yelling at 8th graders at a passing tournament. So I just don't know who to give Dum Dum of the Week to regarding Modern Day or Frank McManus. I would imagine I'd give it to Modern Day, but maybe they just don't want to specify it so quickly, because if they do, then they're going to come under fire, and then it's going to be another controversy and whatnot. So I'm not going to give the whole sound effect of Dum Dum of the Week, but I will just say for Frank McManus, you did a dang good job of coaching Modern Day in your first year. So I know, and the sad part is I never got a chance to interview him. I never got a chance to interview Frank McManus at a passing tournament, and that would have been so awesome if I did, just because he sounds like a pretty cool guy, and he was when I introduced myself to him, he was very chillax and whatnot, and I definitely thought that he had that nice demeanor to him. So maybe something happened and the school kind of cracked down on him. So I don't want to get too much into details, especially since I don't know them, but some of y'all need to make the better decision. So I'm not going to do the whole sound effect, but Modern Day, if I find out that the reason why you fired Frank McManus was because he yelled at 8th graders, well then we'll circle back to this. So I'm not going to give out a Dum Dum of the Week officially, but this is going to be a to be continued moment with Frank McManus and Modern Day in terms of why they fired Frank McManus. I mean, now they have to search for another coach, but that's going to be the hottest ticket to basically be a head coach. And everyone that is not coaching, or everyone that is a current head coach that is not fully happy at where they're at, they're going to want to apply for this job, and they're going to want to put their best foot forward. So we'll see what happens with the Modern Day football coach saga, but for right now, this is going to be a to be continued process, and hopefully I'll get more information regarding Modern Day and Frank McManus. But wherever Frank McManus goes, I wish him nothing but the best. I'm sure he's going to make another program turned around. He'll turn around another program, just like how he helped Modern Day go 13-1 and win the High School Football of America National Championship, as well as the CIF Southern Section Division 1 Championship, and also the CIF Open Division State Championship. So that's basically going to do it for the Dum Dum of the Week. I didn't really have a Dum Dum of the Week, but I will say this is to be continued. Hopefully I get more information next week when I do the show. But on that note, that is going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for me to get on out of here, because I have not had lunch and I need to get some grub in me. Yeah, dig. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. Shout out to the chat room: Marcus, Los, Great, Jen B, Larry B, Ralph Police, Adam Karnick, and Mike Pat for all popping in. I really do appreciate it. Adam, I promise you I will have Chargers Rams projected first round picks next week. I promise you. I won't procrastinate. I will probably put my ear to the ground on what the Chargers and Rams are going to do for the draft this next week. I promise. Promise. Hold me to it, y'all. But until then, for everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Y'all have yourself a great rest of the week. I will see you all on Tuesday for Set Point at noon Pacific time. So keep it locked there. As for next week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, I imagine it's going to be on Sunday just because that's my day off. Maybe I'll have it Thursday. Maybe. It all depends on if I go to the NPSF men's volleyball semifinals tournament. But we'll see. Have yourself a great rest of the week. And remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace!